Netflix's You has captivated audiences with its series adaptation based on the books by Caroline Kepnes. Today at Collider, we'll go behind the scenes of the psychological drama and uncover what makes this series a must-watch. You originated as a novel by Caroline Kepnes, and adapting it for television required significant changes. The character of Joe Goldberg was actually thought up in a coffee shop. She created the character after spotting someone staring at her intently. "I went on Facebook. I felt someone over my shoulder, and it was a guy standing there, glaring at me. The voice clicked for me in that moment," she recalls. The show originated on Lifetime, where it ran for one season before getting canceled. But then Netflix jumped in and saved the show by buying the rights to it. While the core narrative remained intact, the series introduced new characters and storylines not present in the books. For instance, characters like Ellie in Season 2 and Natalie in Season 3 were created for the show to expand the narrative and provide fresh perspectives on Joe's character. One of the biggest storylines that was changed is that love doesn't murder anyone in the books. Kepnes, who served as a writer of one episode and a consultant for the series, expressed admiration for how the adaptation brought her characters to life. She recalled watching early footage of Badgley's performance and feeling a deep connection to her creation, noting that his portrayal captured the essence of Joe in a way that was both thrilling and unsettling. Penn Badgley's portrayal of Joe Goldberg became iconic, but his journey to the role was not straightforward. Badgley was 30 when he first took on the role and spent about a decade playing the character by the time the series finished. When showrunners Greg Berlanti and Sarah Gamble were developing the show for Lifetime, they wrote the pilot script with Badgley in mind for the role of Joe from the very beginning after being fans of his Gossip Girl character. Initially, Badgley was hesitant to take on the character due to the morally complex nature of Joe. In an interview, he said, "I didn't want to do it. It was too much. I was conflicted with the nature of the role. If this is a love story, what is it saying? It's not an average show. It's a social experiment." He expressed concerns about the implications of portraying such a character in a romanticized light. However, after discussions with Berlanti and Gamble, Badgley was able to overcome his pesky moral conflict over playing Joe and was persuaded to join the project. He later acknowledged that the role prompted significant personal introspection, especially as it coincided with milestones in his personal life, such as marriage and fatherhood. He was even excited about the possibility of improvising some of the emotionally heavy scenes. In Season 2, when Joe and Forty chat about Forty's childhood and the latter has a breakdown, a majority of the dialogue was improvised and not written in the script. It allowed the actors to really dive into their characters and understand the action behind the purpose of the scene, rather than focusing on getting the words right. James Scully, who portrays Forty, said, "I think it's a different kind of love. It was two men being physically intimate with each other that wasn't sexual or violent. That was really important to me, and it was really important to Penn." Production designer Kevin Phipps is responsible for the iconic locations and sets fans have come to love in the series. Every season has taken place in a new location. Season 1 and 5 in New York City, Seasons 2 and 3 in Southern California, and Season 4 in London. In Season 4, Joe's apartment kickstarts the murder mystery of the first half of the season, and Phipps ensured that the set was filled with hidden details. The production design team chose a mews house as a setup for Joe's story. Mew houses are small houses behind a very large 5- or 6-story house connected by a back alley. Historically, the master of the house would live in the big house, and their servants and housekeepers would live in the mews. Choosing a mew house was not an accident. Phipps thought it would be an interesting metaphor to have the two houses close to each other, one where Kate and Malcolm would live, and the other where Joe would live. Phipps admits that Badgley doesn't involve himself in the set design process at all, but when he directs an episode, he likes to come on set and do a crew show, where the production and art team take a tour of the set to figure out blocking for the scenes. Phipps mentions that Badgley likes to call out the art department and thank them for doing such a fantastic redress of the space, mentioning that he thinks it's phenomenal. Regarding the Mew House set, it was Phipps' favorite since there were a lot of authentic period details. The house was a very traditional paneled room. The choice of moldings and design of the windows were very carefully considered to give it a very authentic Victorian aesthetic. For the furniture and fabrics, Phipps and his art team updated the house with a mid-century vibe. The oak floor was restored and painted with specific aging designs placed into all the nooks and crannies of the space. To make the home feel more like Joe's apartment, Phipps added a little bookbinding station to go along with his origins as a bookstore manager. To contrast Joe's space, Kate and Malcolm's apartment was more nouveau riche. In Phipps' character study of the couple, he thought they would have hired an interior decorator, so their space had to be rich, tasteful, and measured in design. And since Kate is an art dealer, a lot of curated artwork was hung around the apartment to reflect that the apartment was very much Kate's world. So, how does production film the scenes where Joe's voiceovers come into play? Well, while filming, Badgley's stand-in reads all of the voiceovers so that there are long enough pauses to accommodate the voiceover. Badgley records the lines in an ADR session later, and then they're placed in during post-production. Because of this, scenes don't have to be trimmed or edited, and the recordings perfectly fit the time they need in the scene. Badgley's stand-in Danny Waters actually makes a proper cameo, with his face on camera in Season 2, Episode 8, as the guy whose wife kisses 40. The series has had its fair share of bloody moments. In order to create the gallons of prop blood needed, the prop team would make the liquid out of a mixture of sticky sugar and red dye. In Season 2, the most gruesome scene Badgley filmed was when Joe finds Delilah's body. He said, "The amount of fake blood that was required to make that look real was gruesome." Actress Victoria Pedretti stated in an interview once that for some of the really gory scenes, there's a blood machine on set that actually shoots the liquid out. The second most gruesome scene in Season 2 was when he had to put Jasper's body in the meat grinder. Although it was very technical and all practical effects, the prop team ensured to make an accurate-looking life-sized body that could easily pass through the grinder and added the right amount of prop blood to enhance the look on camera. Badgley has mentioned all of the body, each hair, was a real human hair that was applied individually. It was rigged so that it would bleed when you cut into it. There was also a removable arm. Besides gruesome scenes, the series has also had several stunts as well as physically demanding scenes for the actors. For Badgley, one of the most physical episodes was when Joe and 40, played by James Scully, are tripping on LSD. Badgley recalled that it was one of the most fun scenes to film, but it was also physically demanding on him as they didn't want the scene to be comical and instead feel real for the viewers. In fact, several stunts were filmed for that episode that didn't make the final cut. There have been a number of guest stars throughout the series, including Kathy Griffin as a eulogist in Henderson's funeral in Season 1, Greg Kinnear as Kate's estranged father in Season 4, and Scott Speedman as an affluent CEO in Season 3. Fans even loved seeing Jenna Ortega star as Ellie Alves in Season 2 and Lucas Gage as Adam Pratt in Season 4. But who was the one guest star that Badgley wished he got to spend more time with? That would be everyone's favorite Full House uncle, John Stamos, who played a therapist in Season 1 and guested on Season 2. In the second season, neither of them had any scenes together, and Badgley is on the record saying, "The fact that I wasn't able to work with John Stamos again, which is a deep pain, I can't talk about it." Badgley didn't even know Stamos was making a small appearance in Season 2 until he showed up to set. While You has captivated fans worldwide, a lot has gone into the series behind the scenes to make it as enticing as it can be. From changing moments in the novels for the adaptation to casting the perfect Joe Goldberg, we can see why You has become such a global sensation. Thanks for watching. See you next time.